Alright, so before Casual Friday begins, Nuka makes a good point. I'm going to just let you know before it just keeps rolling that this gameplay is actually an interactive fiction, so it's probably not going to be the most entertaining thing to watch. So you could, except for the end, but you could start hearing I don't want to give it away. It's kind of a cool little ending. It's not the best interactive fiction I've played, but totes for being creative. I like it. It's kind of creepy, but you can just listen to this like an audiobook, and then once you start hearing the weird stuff, click back and start watching the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's go. And welcome back to another Casual Friday Creepy Edition. This is gonna be kind of a thing for October, only because I like to have themes, and I think it fits for October because of Halloween. So, baby sneezes. This game is actually just an interactive fiction. I said I wouldn't do a visual novel or interactive fiction for Visual Novel Month, and it's not Visual Novel Month anymore. So. Screw you guys, leave a comment down below. This one is called My Father's Long, Long Legs. It's written by the same guy that did the game. My uncle who works for Nintendo, I believe is what it was called. It was featured on Pro Jared Plays, Pro Jared's Let's Play channel. So, if you're aware of that game, you're kind of in for a treat if you liked it. So this one, I haven't played this. So we'll just give it a shot and let's just get it started. My family lived on the southern edge of a certain Midwestern industrial city in an old house. Old enough that its basement still had a dirt floor. And I forget what engine this was called, but there's a certain Java engine where this type of choose your own type of adventure type game has highlighted words and the use of sound effects, so you click on that if you're not familiar with this type of engine. But it's kind of a neat engine. I was not yet old enough to openly question a parent's behavior, but certainly old enough to recognize its oddness when my father began digging. I'm just gonna emphasize every single bolded out word. I retain only a single clear memory of the time before the situation before the situation became alarming. My father forsook sunlight forever. Ill. I am sitting at the bottom of the wooden stairs that led down to our basement. Ahead in the dimness stands my father up to his waist in the hole. This got good reviews, that's why I'm doing it, so I don't know. It's nothing too weird now. I remember my daddy who used to dig holes and stand in them. That's a thing. Still in his dark blue uniform from the factory, skin and fabric blackened by the hot breath of machinery, and further smudged now by the damp earth, I watched father with the satisfaction of a child who sees in her parent a well of limitless capability. Dude really likes holes. Upstairs my mother called out, "The dinner is done." My father takes one last shovel of earth, turns it over to the side of the excavation, and, in a single incredible motion, crawls out of the hole simply by pressing the sole of his boot to the lip of the pit and moving his whole body upward, walking right past me, right up the stairs. I believe this only has one ending, so, I'm not too worried if there's choices involved. He was always a tall, angular man, as the remaining pictures of him suggest, and to this day I can clearly conjure the marvelous image of my father's long, long legs striding over me as he emerged from I don't know why that's so funny. Emerged from his hole. He has spent years digging beneath our home? Okay. Apart from him, there were three of us. My mother, my younger brother, and myself. Let's click on mother. There are many things about my mother I do not understand. She first found my father attractive, she admitted to me many years later, because of how unusual he was. I only have choices now. Okay. So, I guess I can't learn about my brother. He had come from the Midwestern industrial town and secured a job at the same factory where my mother was working. Though a practical man, he read constantly and voraciously in subjects ranging from engine repair to philosophy, a habit instilled in him, he had claimed, by his own parents. That's not bad. This was all my father ever said of his family beyond us. Any further inquiry into the subject caused him to leave the room, or bring up some other pressing issue. Mother once theorized that father had run away from home. Whatever his reasons for leaving his family behind, my father did not wait too long before beginning a new one. I was born only a few months after my parents were married. Within a few years, father made enough money that my father could stay home and watch over me and, not too long after, my brother. Then one night, when my brother was perhaps only a year old, father came home, pulled a brand new shovel from the back of his pickup truck, and descended into the basement, where he began to dig. At first he told my mother that he was preparing to put down a cement floor, suggesting a prelude to a full or partial renovation of the home. As a child, my movements of adults were still largely mysterious to me, and I do not know the specific circumstances under which my mother's realized this motive was untrue. Nor do I know exactly what transpired when my father told mother that they must go to the basement to discuss the matter closer to its source. For after the door shut behind him, my brother and I were left alone in the house. My brother cried most of the night while I lay in my own bed, pillows pressed to my ears. The next day my mother reappeared, quietly prepared our meals, and then locked herself in her bedroom. Shortly before my father returned home, and commenced digging once again. Yeah, nothing strange going on here. My father, for his part, stopped sleeping in the bedroom with her, instead taking to the basement, a decision which coincided with the first signs of his terrible metamorphosis. The changes were slow but noticeable. Father began to grow paler, and by the time the factory closed, he could spend the whole day in the basement. He was as white as chalk. Perhaps this general evidence of wear, the change in skin tone, and subsequent emaciation that made him look taller, as if the height increased in proportion to the depth of his project in the basement. Meanwhile, my mother put my brother into preschool and sent me to a latchkey program while she worked to support us. In what seemed a deliberate contrast to my father, she grew somehow darker and smaller. My father dug uninterrupted in the basement for at least a decade. Okay, and once I started high school, he did not even leave the basement to join us for dinner. Then my mother left him. Father was sufficiently enveloped in his life's task that there was no need to replay the arguments from my childhood. Whatever desire he once had to keep us home with him had apparently fallen away, lost in the depths of the pit. Man, that has got to be one intense cement floor that he's building right there. On her own, Mother seems to physically decompress, to become less bowed. She spoke more, laughed more. She had friends and lovers. We did not see my father at all after we left. On the day we left for good, he did not even come out of the basement, though by that point it was questionable how easily he could get through the doorway. So tall he had grown. It was not until many years later that my brother suggested that we pay a return visit to our father's house. Needless to say, my brother and I had different experiences of our early home life. I'm going to click on brother instead of I, see what this says. My brother was young enough when my father began digging that it seemed to him an indifferent fact of life. It seemed obvious to me that something was wrong with our home. Its wrongness was screamed, I thought, by the chilly tenseness with which our mother moved through it, returning home from work in the late afternoon, serving meals, and retiring to her bedroom. The wrongness was screamed, of course, by my father, who, after losing his job at the factory, spent nearly all day in the basement, emerging at irregular intervals to eat and use the toilet. This is to say, nothing of the physical changes he underwent as time went on. Bum bum bum. The wrongness was screamed by my own actions, and the heavy worry I felt that at any moment the fragile equilibrium of our home would be upset, and my brother's friends would witness the terrifying truth of our family situation, a situation I found myself could not begin to articulate, but which I felt ashamedly that an outsider would. Of course my brother, young as he was, saw nothing wrong with inviting his friends to our home, and even taking them down to the basement to see what he called our father's example, I believe, the renovations. I haven't deciphered what's going on, but I'm assuming he has very, very long legs. It's my psychic nature here. My friends never asked to return to the basement after my brother took them down there. Neither would I. What? It's fine. Most people are gonna just kind of cut off and just listen to it. You know, most people do that with YouTube videos anyway. My friends never asked. The friends never asked to return to the basement after my brother took them down there. Some of them quietly deigned to never return to our house at all, much to my relief, though my brother was often disappointed. I recall only one instance, when my brother was perhaps 7, when one of his playmates made a scene. I believe my brother's friend came from a religious family, which may have been part of the problem, but that may also be something I recognize only due to my own biases. At any rate, though his cosmology was different from my own, he at least shared one of the anxieties when he attempted to explain to my brother that our father's project in the basement was deeply unnatural. I emerged from the living room because down the hall I could hear crying. I knew that my brother had a friend over, and so was prepared for the worst. The 2 boys stood outside of the door to the basement, which still stood open. My brother looked up as I approached, at a loss as to how to comfort his weeping companion. "You're going to hell," our visitor informed me, after I managed to get him to look at me. "That's where he's digging to down there," the child said, looking from me to my brother. "He's digging to hell, and you're all going with him." Well, that's not very nice. My brother did not invite his many classmates over after that day, and I don't believe he ever invited any of them down to see the renovations ever again. Yeah. I can just imagine the kid in the lunchroom, in the cafeteria, eating his peanut butter jelly sandwich, and the one kid that said, "You're going to hell," and it's just a little awkward, and it's like, "Hey, what's up?" It's cute. Good old kid stuff. "Are we really going to hell?" he asked me one night, lying beside me in bed after a nightmare sent him to my room. I told him I did not know. "But is that where Dad is digging to?" he asked. I told him there was no such place. "Then why is Dad digging?" In the early days, when I sat on the stairs and watched him work, my father had given me dozens of flippant reasons for his project. Seeking dinosaur bones. Well, let's read the rest of this. All of these excuses has lost currency by this point, of course, and when asked what he was doing, as my brother told me, his religious visitor had inquired, my father had other things to say. Other things? Let's go dinosaur bones. Expanding the basement for a spare bedroom oh, okay, I see what's going on. For a recreational space, looking for buried treasure, hoping to strike oil, suspecting a hot natural spring flowed beneath their house. Okay, now we click on other things. This is not the real world, my father would say, or something along these lines. Okay. What we think is the natural world is just a layer of dirt caked around the true core of the universe. And what is dirt? Inert matter, dead weight, the remains of those who came and went before us, content only to further press down on the creation of their waste. with their waste. There was a time when human beings were giants, walking among the small earth, and now the earth has grown fat and hateful with our soil. While we have grown small. Starting here, I am scraping away the sediment, our coagulated filth, and returning to our original glory. Creepy. I assembled this manifesto from memory, from various iterations and variations Father offered us over the years, and certainly it was a sort of hearsay that had offered my brother's erstwhile friend. Still, they were not satisfactory answers to us then, and would not be satisfactory for my brother as he huddled, fearing hell, in my bed. But frankly, I had no other answer for him, and let the matter lapse into silence, which is perhaps why all those years later he urged me to come with him back to our father's house. Of course, my experiences played a part in the eventual decision. A year or so before we left my father was the last time I ventured down into the basement. My brother was out with friends, having reached the age when finally realized the awkwardness that resulted from bringing visitors to our home, and Mother had locked the door to her room and apparently gone to bed. Father was, of course, laboring in the basement, and I was doing homework in the living room while watching television. There came a knock at the door. The man on the porch was squat, but dressed neatly in a suit, coat and hat. A pair of very small spectacles was perched on the end of his nose, looking minuscule in comparison to his large, round face. "Hi-yo, young lady," he said in a labored voice. "Is your father home?" "Who are you?" I asked. The man tipped his old-fashioned hat back on his head, smiling with rubbery lips. "You would have no reason to know me, of course," he said, "but I am your uncle." Dude, this guy has something with uncles. "But I'm your uncle." I left the man on the porch door knocked while I went to seek my mother's help. This time the uncle's not creepy. Maybe it's the same uncle. Oh. I highly doubt it, but I wonder if this is a prequel to the uncle who works for Nintendo. Thus I discovered he was unresponsive. Oh, she was unresponsive, but as she often was in those days. This left me with only one option: to summon my father from the basement. He did not respond when I opened the door and yelled down, though I thought I could hear, faintly, the sounds of his digging. I looked back to the front door, where I could see through pebbled glass the rotund figure of the man who claimed to be my uncle, and ascended the wooden stairs into the basement. The only light, as always, came from the single bulb hanging from the ceiling. My father had learned to operate in these conditions, but for me the lack of illumination cast the labyrinth below into a mess of confusing and seemingly contradictory paths of damp black earth and only slightly blacker shadow. Father had first attempted to dig straight down, but as the years went on he elaborated his original plans, angling outward from the center of the basement at the depth of perhaps 15 feet. From there he had begun to hollow out the entirety of the basement with one long looping path, treaded and bent around itself like some monstrous length of viscera, all the while continuing his march downward. I stood on the bottommost stair that, as I thought of it, still properly belonged to our house. By my feet was a stack of unfamiliar books. They were old, with blank but warped brown covers. Next to them was what appeared to be an antique's child's rattle, caked with dirt, and several rocks chipped into various unnatural but vaguely instrumental shapes. I turned the void and called for my father. No response came, but I grew more certain that I could hear, however distantly, the sound of Father's shovel. I called for him again, this time giving also my purpose for interrupting his work. "There's a man at the door," I said. "He says he's my uncle." I stood and waited, and as I did so, the sound of digging stopped. My father emerged a minute or so later, unfolding himself from the narrow bends of his maze, his pale skin covered only by the rags of his clothing, else everywhere dusted gray with soil, including, I noted, the corners of his mouth, which seemed stained particularly thoroughly, and much more darkly. "Your uncle," Father rumbled, not quite asking a question. He then added, "My brother." I nodded. "Show 'em in," he ordered. The squat stranger, my uncle, who I remember smelled of sour milk, seemed elated at his prospects. I led him down the basement stairs, his agitation growing exponentially until he saw my father standing at his full height. It must have been at least 8 or 9 feet then, I think, at the entrance of his renovations. I knew to take my leave. As I ascended the stairs, I heard the visitor remark that my father seemed to have done very well for himself, all things considered. I never again saw the man who claimed to be my uncle, either that day or any day after. Perhaps not coincidentally, this is also the last clear memory of my father, and the one that returned to me many years later when my brother suggested we return to our father's house. It seemed my brother wanted to put his mind at ease by checking up on our father, who had been left alone now for slightly longer than we had lived with him. On the one hand, I appreciated my brother's sentiment, even if I felt it was misplaced. On the other hand, I knew I could not stop him. His feelings toward father had always been more lenient. The only question was, would I go along with him, or let him make the visit on his own? Oh, we do have a choice. Okay. Yeah, I might as well go with him. We decided upon a day to visit our childhood home, where we assumed our father still lived, and decided to meet there one afternoon the following week. But there must have been somewhere been a miscommunication. I was late. I must have been late. The alternative is that, for his own purposes, my brother arrived early to see our father before I did, and I do not wish to contemplate why that would be. The town was considerably less industrial than it had been, though the taste of industry still laced our water and air. The old neighborhood, not the most affluent even the former times, had fallen into further disrepair. The houses up and down the block stood weathered, and it seemed empty. The sidewalks buckled around thick protrusions of sickly weeds which reached out into the potholed street, protruding fingers of the overgrown lawns. The only sign of habitation was a single car, my brother's car, parked outside our old home. The doors were locked, the windows rolled up, the hand pressed to the hood told me it was not warm, but apart from that I had no way of guessing how long the vehicle had been there unattended, and the house waited. It seemed not much different from the rest of the buildings, scraped down in the gray bones by the elements. The windows were gone, without even slivers of glass remaining, and the porch was bowed and now held a stagnant pool of rainwater. The front door stood open at an angle, its lowermost hinge having rusted and snapped in two. Motorcycles. Stepping carefully on the rotten porch, I slipped inside and found myself in the old living room. The floor was littered with trash and chunks of plaster dropped from the ceiling. The television was gone, though a lighter patch in the shredded wallpaper marked its former location. The couch had collapsed and now seemed covered with mounds of some sort of gray mold or fungus. Ahead was the central hallway of a house, and I could see that the door to the basement was wholly removed. I called out my brother's name, then stood for a moment looking down into the unremitting darkness. Of course, the power was out. It was probably disconnected long ago, but a flashlight lay on the floor just outside the basement entrance. My brother's? The flashlight seemed quite new. It flicked on and pointed it down the basement, but it penetrated far enough. Oh, hello. It's going on by itself. Pointed it down the basement, but it penetrated far enough only to reveal the foot of the stairs. I called my brother's name again and waited. There was still no response. Assuming the basement was like as I had last seen it, my brother could have easily gotten hurt if he went down without his flashlight. He might have been laying down there just beyond the stairs, unconscious. I had to make sure. Flashlight ready, I went into the basement. Uh-oh. Ah! Ow! Oh, jeez. I don't... Ah! Okay. The stairs creaked beneath my feet. I reached the bottom. This is actually a pretty cool little effect here. And when my flashlight returned, only a slope heading deeper beneath the house. I knew my father had done quite a bit of work in the decade since we left. Is there anything else down here? No? Okay. Oh, there we go. Yeah. I went down. Down. Okay, we have a few choices here. I went down, I called for my brother, and walked to the left. I walked to the right. Well, we'll call for the brother. Only my own breathing echoed back through the chambers of the barren earth. Oh, there's stuff down here. I walked further into the darkness. Ugh. I called for my brother again. I turned right. The musty smell of old earth filled the nostrils. Let's turn right. Was I going in circles? How would I even be able to tell? I took a downward sloping path to the left. I called my brother's name. Ah! Okay. I'm sure y'all hear that sound. In the distance, the sound of shoveling did not break its rhythm. That kind of spooked me, because it's like quiet the entire time until this point. As if the digger did not know or care I was there. I followed the sound of digging. I walked further into the darkness. Let's click on the digger. Was my brother? Where was my brother? I went left. I followed the sound of the digging, past my father. I had eaten through the earth, stretched out in all directions. There was no sign of my brother. I called for my brother again. I followed the sound of the... you know what? Okay, well... The musty smell of old earth. I think we're starting to go in like little circles here with the text. Around me there was nothing but darkness. Okay, yeah, now we only have one choice. We follow the digging. Was I going in circles? How would I even be able to tell? I followed the sound of the digging. I took a downward sloping path to the left. I guess we go that way. I followed the sound of the digging. My paths my father had stretched out. I guess... No, we follow the sound of the digging. Let's follow the sound of the digging. Okay. Eaten. Took a deep breath. I followed the sound of the digging. I followed the closest... Okay, here we go. This is something new. Ugh. Ugh. Oh, that's... For some reason this is really giving me chills. Oh. I'm expecting a jump scare. I don't like it. I do like this song though. Oh. I did not find my brother. Okay. Okay. That was creepy. I don't know what just happened. Orange skies are gray. When you make me happy. And that's what it was. I was like, I recognize the song. It was You're My Sunshine. Alright, I did not find my brother. That kind of creeped me out. I do not know what to tell our mother. I do not know where to go from here, what to do. Is it true I gave up my search, but once I saw what lived there, had been living there for all these years, or more precisely what had grown there. I ran from the basement. Somehow, by my own luck or by some other's design, I made it out of the darkness, though my brother has not. There's a chance, I think, that he may still be alive. My guilt is heavy, do not doubt that, but it is outweighed by the fear that I experienced when I came face to face with the terrible result of my father's attempted renovations of a rotted world. I once told my brother there was no such place as hell. Ah! Ah! The bastard told me to put on headphones before he put... Oh, what the... I still believe that to be true, but where my brother is now, I wonder if he has grown as tall as our father. Can we click on the toes? Is that it? I think that's the end of the story right there. Dude's got some hairy legs. And that is just nasty. Ugh. Alright, so yeah. If play with headphones for the optimal experience. That was, I do have headphones on, and that I jumped real easy, and that gave me kind of a jump. And it wasn't so much scary than just really kind of eerie. That was pretty good. I like that. If you would like to know where this is, I'll leave a link in the description below. And I'm sure the guy. I'll also leave the guy's name. His name is Michael Lutz, which I'll then leave a link down the description below to Michael Lutz's information page on the interactive fiction database. So you can look up some other things he's written and designed and made. This is definitely more along the lines of a one-way storyline. Supposedly there's only one ending to this. So I'm assuming you don't get trapped down there, which is kind of nice, you know. I hope you enjoyed that. Leave a comment down below if there's anything you would like me to play for Casual Friday, or if there's a good, creepy, scary game you'd like me to play. And that's about it. Yeah. Don't do like crap. Well, thank you for watching that Casual Friday, and totes to you for actually sitting through the entire 30 minutes of that. If you would like me to cover more interactive fictions in the future, like actual gameplays or walkthroughs of classic interactive fictions that may be kind of difficult, or you just don't want to like spend the time and try to figure out something like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which I'll be honest with you, I never actually played that thing all the way through. It's a very unforgiving thing. Oh, by the way, if you've noticed, I am doing end cards now, and this is probably going to go on a little bit too long. Click on those annotations. It'll take you to other Casual Fridays. That's cool, right? Yeah. This is Halloween month, so that hopefully that was creepy enough for you. If you have any recommendations, leave a comment down below. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know. I can't. This is the first time I've done end cards. I don't know. Let that play. Filthy quiet. Boo-Boo doesn't like my end card. Yeah. Whatever. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Freaking cars, man. Freaking cars. Don't record with the window open. YouTube tip of the day.